Hey guys, welcome back to Don't Forget the Art. I am so excited that we are doing this today. So we are celebrating Bob Ross's birthday today. Now it doesn't happen until September 29th, so later on in the month. But for many of you, you know that I am a bit of a Bob Ross fan. I could go into more details, but he is probably the reason why I got into art. Loved to watch him when I was a little girl. Started watching him back a few years ago. It helps to my youngest son to fall asleep at night. So, long story short, it brought up memories of my art periods back in my younger days, and eventually it was what got me back into art. So many people know that I am a Bob Ross fan. This is one of my little pop art guys. These are my little encouragement here because one thing I loved about Bob Ross was he just always was so encouraging. And of course, he makes it look so darn easy. And so my husband got me this for Christmas, I believe last year. So every once in a while, when I'm asking, wondering if it looks okay, I just ask Bob, "How's it going, Bob?" And he just, gives me a little nod. So, happy little accidents and just having a fun time doing art. And that's what Bob Ross was all about. And he was all about helping make art accessible to anyone. I think that's probably what he's best known for, bringing it on PBS. So it was absolutely free to anyone. And he made it look so easy. And honestly, after finally doing my first Bob Ross tutorial, um, I've never done one before. I've always felt intimidated by it. It really wasn't that bad. He really does make it easy and goes through it step by step. Now, I can tell you honestly, mine did not take 30 minutes or less, okay? It took much longer, but that's okay. Go at your own pace. I could have used a smaller canvas. However, I did use a 16 by 20. This is the same canvas that I used, okay? So Master's Touch. You can wait for them to go on sale. Otherwise, they're not too badly priced. They are pre-gessoed. I did put an extra layer of gesso on it to make sure that my paint did stick to the canvas. So it is a bigger size. You're going to see that in the video. I did have to adjust my camera so that it's a bigger picture. You get to see my brand new floors, if you can see them right here. I got those in the studio here, so that does make it a little bit easier to clean up versus carpet. Other than that, things that you're going to need besides your canvas, you are going to need watercolor. Now, he obviously used oil, and you can certainly use oil too if you would like. Um, it's going to be a little bit different, and I was going to do this with my kids. I also wanted to let you know you can make adjustments so that you can do this with acrylics. It's going to be easier cleanup, not as dangerous or whatever, because I know there's always that fear with the cleanup with the oils and the turpentine and thinner and all that fun stuff. Um, so acrylic, I used acrylics. It doesn't look perfect, but I think it turned out okay, especially considering it was my first Bob Ross tutorial. So I will show you what I used with acrylics. I used a canvas. I used water with the cut. Now there is a water-soluble oil out there. I have not used it though yet. I had hoped to and try it with this painting. I did not. So that might be something that I try in the future. Maybe put out a bonus video and see how that does work. And then you're going to want an assortment of brushes. I did Autumn Fantasy, so I'm going to show you everything I did for that. There are obviously, as you know, a bazillion Bob Ross tutorials out there, so you pick which one suits your fancy. I figured since it was autumn, there's a couple others that I looked at, but my son insisted I needed to do some Mighty Mountains. My son has done a few Bob Ross tutorials. He loves Bob Ross. That helps him to relax and chill out, and I really kind of hoped he would do this for me, but and with all of the excitement that we have going on, unfortunately here, that just didn't work out. So I did it myself quickly. It took a few hours, but I also was trying to do some other things in between the situations there. And my apologies ahead of time. There's a couple times I accidentally forgot to push record on the device, so I might have missed a few minutes there, but hopefully you'll see it, and I'll certainly link to the tutorial that he did. So you're going to want some fan brushes. Now, he always talks about the 2-inch brush. You don't have to have a 2-inch brush. This is a 1.5-inch brush. I don't use it too often, obviously you can see, but you're going to want to have maybe a 1-inch brush, just some different brushes. And for some of the things that he does with the plants and things like that, having brushes that are older and rattier, keep those around because those are perfect for like trees and bushes and making some of that stuff. They've got that ratty edge to them. You also will need some kind of a palette knife. Now he uses something like this. You're going to want it for not just the painting, like with his tree trunks and putting the water lines and things like that in. But he uses this, and I use this to mix the paint. You waste a whole lot less paint if you are using that on the palette. You will want some kind of a palette. This is what I have left over after making the mess on my palette with his tutorial. And then the colors. For Autumn Fantasy, I used titanium white. I'm going to move this out of the way. I used titanium white. I used phthalo blue. He called for midnight black. I did not have midnight black, but I had Mars black. He asked for dark sienna. I had burnt sienna, so that was what I used. And as you can see, these are student grades or the thicker, heavy body paints. Use what you have. He asked for Van Dyke Brown. I don't think I have that one, but I had raw umber, so I used that one. Crimson, I did have alizarin crimson. That's one of my favorites. I love that deep, dark red. Sap green, cadmium yellow, okay, yellow ochre, Indian yellow. I don't think I actually use this. I probably should have, and I could go back and add some highlights with it. I mostly use these two yellows. Bright red, I use this quinacridone red. I love that one. But a cadmium red would look nice too. And then I used, because I didn't use oils and, blending for some things, especially when I did the clouds, I used this. It's a slow dry blending gel medium. Okay, it will cause your paints to have a little bit of a different texture, so they will be a little more translucent, but it'll help them to blend. Okay, the biggest problem or difference between oils versus acrylics: oils dry much slower. So good news, oils dry slower, you can blend them a whole lot easier. Bad news, acrylics dry quicker, which means blending can be a little bit more difficult. On the plus side, acrylics, you don't have to wait months for it to dry. You have to wait an hour or two or maybe a few days. Whereas with oils, the dry time to have that painting completely dry and ready to varnish and things like that can actually take months. So there's pluses and minuses to both of them. Again, I used acrylics, and so that is totally cool if that is what you choose to do. I hope you get excited and celebrate Bob Ross's birthday, celebrated September 29th with a fun Bob Ross tutorial. I am going to show you how I did it, my little kind of step-by-step. You can fast forward so you don't have to watch the whole thing. And I'll see you on the other side.
So the first thing I did was to put some white on here. Now again, Bob Ross uses the liquid white. That's an oil thing. There really isn't a liquid white like that for acrylics. So in all honesty, the key with acrylics is really just to move fast to get those blending things together and to blend your colors ahead of time. So I'm kind of bad at that. I'm working at getting better. I do tend to blend on the canvas, but ideally, especially with this, where you're trying to get some different shades of the red and pink in there, you would probably want to try to get some different variations of those colors, lighter and darker, on your palette ahead of time. The other thing I would say, if I was to do this one again, is to bring your horizon line down lower than you think that you need to. I really should have brought that sky all the way down to the lake here that I'm working on, I didn't. So that was a little bit of a boo-boo there on my part. But you know, live and learn, and that's what you do. This, as I mentioned, was my first Bob Ross tutorial, so I definitely learned some things, and it's just good information to have kind of with you whenever you're doing any kind of painting. I mean, every time we paint, we learn. And that's the bottom line. When I did those brown clouds, I did use the brown as he did, and I used some of that slow dry blending medium that I talked to you about. Now, the blending medium that I used, I actually got at Michael's. Some of the other brands do have it. I believe Liquitex has it. That I know of, the Hobby Lobby brand, I haven't seen it there, but check Michael's. You can also check Hobby Lobby if you're into Hobby Lobby, or the Liquitex or Golden. Any of those, that slow dry blending medium it's going to change your acrylics. They will be a little bit more see-through. You can use more of the acrylics. It definitely has a little bit of a different texture to it, but it will help you to get some of those cloud effects, or I like it to get some, you know, kind of light shadows in there. It just helps to provide a little bit of depth sometimes in your painting. Now, Mr. Ross had me kind of make up a brown with some red and sap green, the bright red and sap green, no, crimson and sap green. And that's what I did to make the mountains. Then I took and made a really light pink. I probably would go a little bit lighter if I had to. I wound up going back and touching up and giving some little highlights with some white. I might do some more of that. And I probably would do a lighter blue. But overall, I think that I like the effect of it. But that will give you kind of the shadow and highlight and shadow, give your mountain some depth to it. And you use the palette knife for that. Now for this, I'm kind of making what's going to look like kind of an island, or, you know, kind of an extension from where those mountains are on this lake. Some little tree areas, and I'm building up the land. From there, I'm kind of giving a little bit of depth there and putting in the some greens, trying to give it a little bit of a three-dimension to it. So this would be kind of the mid-ground to the painting. So we did the background with the sky and the mountains, and now a mid-ground here with the land that's in front of the mountains on the lake. Adding some colors for interest and things like that, kind of building it up, and now kind of helping to create the illusion of this actually being a land, and giving it a little bit of depth to it. I used my palette knife for it. I also used some different colors, kind of added a little bit of that brown to the white to kind of help. Now again, with the oils, to add those reflections in and smear them around to get that effect is going to be a lot easier than it will be with acrylics. But you know, you use what you've got. I mean, I think it looks okay. I'm sure oils would have made it look nicer, or if I would have used some of that blending medium. It's a pretty still lake, so I think it looked okay. And then I went through and I put a few more of these dabs in there with the water. Again, I think just to help to give it that idea that it's water. You know, some little splash areas, or, you know, I don't know what you'd call it, but with the white on the palette knife. Now, I know he talks about the liquid white. Again, don't really have that here. You can get some, you know, kind of liquidish white with like craft paint. Liquitex and Golden I know has some of the like professional grade liquid white, and you can use that, but honestly, just, you know, for me, I've found that just putting my palette knife through the white really does help to see. Now, you can see I was having a little bit of trouble kind of doing the tutorial, kind of watching what he did and trying to follow then along. Sometimes I had to rewind. Honestly, I do not know how the man did it in 30 minutes or less. I guess that's where practice makes perfect. Um, from what I understand, he started painting, to kind of relax. He obviously was very creative, um, and really did a great job over the years in helping to teach others how to do these beautiful, simple landscape paintings. And the one thing I will say after doing it, this was a lot simpler than I thought it would be. I have not done a Bob Ross tutorial because for some reason, watching him do it, you're thinking, wow, he makes it look so easy, but there's no way. It has to be way more difficult than that. And in all honesty, it really isn't. It's really that simple. He does such a fabulous job to kind of help, make it easy and accessible for others. Uh, I would really encourage you to try it. You may not do it in 30 minutes. This took closer to, now granted, I was doing other things at the time, so it took longer if I were to calculate the hours. But in total time that I had recording, it took about 2.5 hours. I am not a fast painter. I will fully admit that. I like to kind of be patient and I do get a little scared. I mean, there was a couple times here where, I had some conversations with Mr. Ross to, questioning what he wanted me to do and whatnot. But I mean, when you kind of, for me, when I don't think about it and I just enjoy the moment of the painting, um, it really, really is awesome. He really does help you through step by step on how to do it, and the results speak for themselves. This painting, in my opinion, turned out a lot better than I thought it would. So I hope you see that. I hope you see how easy it was and encourages you to go ahead and try it. It really is fun, enjoyable, relaxing, especially some of these tutorials because it helps to build that confidence and helps me to feel like, what, I can do this. And that's how I started back painting again. We started watching Bob Ross. Actually, my dad didn't know who he was. And so we watched him so that he could, we could show him who he was. And everybody in the whole house fell asleep, including my son. My youngest son was a total night owl. We could not get him to sleep at night. And we very quickly found out that if we were to watch Bob Ross tutorials, he would fall asleep. And that's how I started back to painting, not with Bob Ross, but with getting back to doing those tutorials.
And here is my finished product, guys. Now, as I am looking at it, I am realizing I have not signed it. Now, usually when I sign one of my paintings, I tend to sign it someplace small, and I blend it in so it really isn't very obvious. Now, some people have expressed that they like that, and other people have told me that they didn't. But if you know in typical Bob Ross style, Bob Ross used bright red, and it was pretty big right at the bottom. It was obvious it was one of his paintings. So, in Bob Ross style, I am going to grab me some bright red here. I am still going to do it small, but I will do it in bright red. And I am going to put my little John Hancock, or more like Chris, down here at the bottom. He usually signed his Ross. I usually just sign mine Chris. And that's it. Okay? So this is my painting. I hope you try one of his tutorials. There are a bunch out there to choose from. He was a pretty cool guy. And again, in the art community, the fact that we are looking at now another artist with little to no formal training and with such a huge influence on helping to make art fun and accessible to everyone and free through his Joy of Painting shows on PBS is absolutely wonderful and amazing. He was an inspiration in many different ways for many different people. I hope you guys try this project. I hope you have fun. If you have any questions, please do me a favor and let me know. I would love to see your finished products and finished paintings over on our Facebook page, or you can get me on our website, don'tforgettheart.com. However, you can show them to me. I would love to see them. You can also put them on social media under hashtag Don't Forget the Art. You guys enjoy yourselves. Take care and happy arting, everyone.